Hi everybody, I am Anjindra. You might also know me as Aliera of Wayrest, the runaway queen, the thief, the arms dealer, the uniter of Tamriel. That's right. I was in the game after this. I beta tested underneath my father, Akatosh, and Bethesda paid us off in street cred and mouse pads and all sorts of cool things. So my handle at the time was Aliera, and they loved it. So I became a queen. I'm in the book quests in Daggerfall, so we are currently hunting down um, a minotaur. I'm trying to think of his name. Methuselah, whatever his name is. He's dead meat. His butt's mine. It's happening. Happening. So, oh yeah, I'm overburdened. Or burdened. I'm encumbered. Alright. So this is also not his lair. This is where we are on this. This is also not his lair. I have until, I think it was the 25th. This is like me trying to remember to pay my bills. I need a PA really badly, but I have to wait until I become significantly more popular for wonderful things like people who help organize your calendar. Did I already go up? I feel like I went upstairs. But yeah, so this, I think I have until the 25th to kill my Minotaur. I'll have to get a planner, you know, like I wonder if they have those Elder Scrolls planners. Like kill Minotaur 25th. Ooh, nice. Plate boots. No, my inventory is not too full. What is it? 25th of Hearthfire. That's what I have until maybe it's the 22nd. All right, so let's ditch some stuff so that I can get me some plate boots. Cause look at this. That boot. What the heck? Oh, that's on. Okay. That boot Cuirass combo. We cannot have that. This is. I am a walking anti-fashion statement. I still remember it was like hilarious because there was like a huge thing that you could equip your character and actually see it in a three-dimensional mode back in the day. So like everybody was so into like showing off their little outfits and everything like that. That's what I called them because I'm a girl. And I like to make fun of male gamers when I can. Steel broadsword. That also sounds promising. Are you gonna kill me? That's unfortunate. But anyways, so that's how we kind of keep our stuff. You have to talk just as much as a dude does. We tend to keep it a little bit more kosher. Like I said, gaming culture is in a very strange way very friendly. We care an awful lot about being open-minded and that sort of thing. It looks like I've been here. I feel like I have a belt. We care an awful lot about stuff like being open-minded and so on. Because we like our own space. It's going to be a rare thing. Does he have anything cool? See a lizard man. In later games that's hyphenated, it's my understanding, I went and looked it up, that the Argonians are actually the lizard people in this. They hyphenate it later to denote a race more firmly. Now they're just called lizard men. So. I feel like I should get some... Oh my god. Oh, Sinbad, Seventh Voyage, world's best movie. Taking me back here. Anyways, I wonder if I can do this or if there's monsters. How many hours do I stress? How about 4? There are enemies nearby. I'm just kind of hack and slashing my way through here. If all he had was a dagger, he should not have been able to hurt me nearly as badly as he did. There are enemies nearby. I'm just like, I'm near a spawn spot or something. Gotta love that. Run away! Oh, is that a rat? Am I running? No, we can't have that. Running from a rat. I'll get left out of camp for that. But yeah, so you know, we try to be pretty open-minded and whatnot. Chicks especially will take at least a partial interest very often in learning a lot of colorful language that doesn't involve some of the nastier. If you're playing an FPS, and I ran into this online, and I'm glad it's getting that it's getting a discussion attached to it. I'm a little bit upset. I mostly just want to see if there's a Minotaur in here, and it's looking like there's not. But I'm a little bit upset about how that went though, because it came across as an attack on feminism again. And that is a very old argument for us. We're not, it's not that there aren't still, battles to be won and whatever. Like I said, I personally am a fan of recommending that women get more clothing, that our armor be similar. I recognize it would have to be crafted differently and so on. Read the Belgariad, but just it's not a swear-free zone, especially if you're playing an FPS. You should absolutely expect that there will be language in there that would go right along with the environment, which is, that you're technically actually firing a gun. You're not, but it's meant to be a virtual reality scenario. So you really will find that sort of, extremely offensive language. And like I said, chicks kind of go out of their way in our culture, and not all of them, we're all different, but to figure out a way to do that and just be more family friendly, because we actually are raised, it's a subculture. So I was raised as a gamer. I was taught, for instance, something that I had to teach my sister-in-law when she got married to my brother was, you don't walk in front of the TV. We were like horrified that she would walk in front of the TV. And it was so funny because I was like, it first occurred to me like, oh, verify for this poor girl that my brother is not insane. That's really just like super normal that you absolutely don't do that. So it was funny as heck when I finally did it. I was like, yeah, don't do that, and I just kind of gave her the high sign. And she was like, oh, okay, because apparently none of her friends, like when it's a TV show or whatever, you just walk right in front of the TV. You absolutely never do that when you're gaming. You can get killed, and if you haven't saved or you can't save or there's a cutscene or something, you can actually lose a lot of time. And then also, as I mentioned, as a culture, we place a lot of emphasis on play. So that's a very big deal to us. If you are playing, that shouldn't be interrupted. That's your one-on-one time to think for yourself and so on. And that's very important for us. So that was kind of hilarious. But yeah, we definitely pitch in as far as that goes. Which is not to say, I'm not trying to say, oh, we're going to civilize the guys out here or whatever. There's always going to be dudes, and they're not even necessarily a part of our culture, who are just they just want to get on there and cuss and bash women and whatever. And that's, that's just their jam. That's who they are. And that's not my problem in this, kind of abstract way. It's just not. And I'm not going to make that my problem. That's not what I do. If you go into an FPS, people are going to swear at you, period, end of story. As far as stuff that makes a woman feel targeted, that's kind of you got another thing coming if you think that in any culture that's going to be acceptable. It is not. You are never going to be able to target somebody. It is never going to be acceptable for you to just say, a certain type of person or a certain type of, so on should have something, especially when it comes to, personal, I don't want to say sexual because it's not, it's violent, and that kind of throws people for a loop because they're like, no, it's, and I'm like, yeah, no, I know, but it's considered a violent crime, and it's considered a violent crime for a reason. It's for dominance, and it's for social dominance, that people do this. And we, that's not acceptable, and it's not acceptable in our culture. I vary a little bit on stuff, and there are a couple people out there really pulling for clean this up and so on, and it's a hostile environment, and it is, but it's not I don't know in what world some people live in where they think that you're gonna play a game where stuff is shooting at you and people are going to talk like it's Dora the Explorer. That's not going to happen. So I have a much more pragmatic approach to it where I'm like, okay, well, what is it that really is an issue that's out of reality? What about this is so out there that it just doesn't even make sense? It doesn't even make sense that, for instance, oh wow, I'm really getting my butt kicked here. It doesn't even make sense, for instance, that, women don't have underwear that fit when it's Street Fighter. It doesn't. No arguments. So, there's that, you know. It doesn't make any sense for there not to be a female option for characters unless it's integral to the storyline. And we won't, that's one where we won't get down on you, but you'll kind of get some feedback. It doesn't make sense that people don't pay more attention to a female opinion when we have plenty of disposable income and free time to play video games, you know, even if it's just during nap time for your kid or however. We do have that money. We do have that, you know, we are a growing portion of the gaming population that's very much interested in spending our cash. Like, we like outfits. We like a lot of the stuff that is very girl friendly about the culture. That's something that we want, you know? So it doesn't make sense not to pay attention to that. And like I said, I'm glad that there's a conversation that's getting attached to that because it is an issue. It is present. It's not going to go away in the way that I think some people hope it will. It's just not. It's a little bit like going into a cigar lounge. You're allowed in there if you're a chick, but it's for smoking cigars. So, like, you know, take it with a grain of salt. You're gonna definitely, it's definitely set up to be a place where you can have those conversations. I obviously, I live on the border of Canada. So I have a different opinion on quite a few things and then also a different cultural outlook because, for instance, their whoring is legal. So if someone's a whore, that's just, it's a trade that's protected by law. It's not, you know, oh, you're a bad person or whatever, or it's illegal or you're going to get arrested or whatever. You know, some people have sex and that's how they, that's their job. I think they have to register somewhere or something, but that's literally their job. So, you know, presumably they're good at it. I have no idea. I don't get involved in the whole debate. You know, and then again with marijuana and whatever. So I'm aware of the fact that, you know, there are whole sections of our culture and other people's culture that just don't mesh as far as what's socially acceptable and what's not. And I wouldn't be able to tell you how that affects feminism or it doesn't. Because I'm not going to bother somebody else with that, you know, unless they're also a gamer and we are in that conversation. So like I said, glad the conversation's happening. Hope to God there's a Minotaur in this dungeon, way more than I care about that. But I just figured that since that is happening in social media, and since I do address a lot of that, that I would kind of toss that out there. So, interesting thing, something that I definitely mentioned before, because Arena kind of did go from zero to hero as far as, you know, in Fallout, chicks are fully armored. In the future games, you know, we don't have this whole, like, the chick on the cover who is wearing, like, nothing. I put that up in my room when I was younger, and I did it a little bit to nudge my father, I'm not gonna lie. Just to be like, you know, because there was the Boris Vallejo prints and everything, and I very much understood that it was art and it was meant to be taken out of context with reality. But I went and I put it in my room along with a whole lot of other art, including I would dismantle the Boris Vallejo calendars and so on because I thought they were beautiful. And, you know, study the female form. I'm familiar with it. I think I've previously mentioned I, you know, had a friend of a friend who was a nude model and another friend who was a lingerie model. They were cool people. They were interesting. I hung out with them. It was fun. Never really brought it up, just something I happen to know. So, like, I'm very familiar with that concept. But I did put that up there to kind of bring it into reality for him. You know, like, oh, hey, look, it's Arena. Look, it's your teenage daughter. And, oh, look, that woman has no clothes on. So, he's a lapsed cat. He was, I still don't past tensing things. But, he was a lapsed Catholic. So, I'm sure that it, like, rang a bell for him and hopefully positively influenced things. And that's kind of how I do. And I think that that's something that people miss when they're looking at our culture. We're so introverted and we're so, you know, like, you'll see a lot of things hit that are poppy and sizzly like you see in mainstream culture. But we also have this side to us where the popularity doesn't even enter into it. If you think something is right or wrong and you're a gamer chick, you will just act on it. We have an autonomy that's trained into us by these games where our opinion, our personal opinion of how something should be, once it enters our home or our space or something that's under our purview, like we definitely take ownership for that. So that's a very positive thing, and it's why I don't worry quite as much as I think mainstream media does, or people who are new to the culture do when they run into that kind of seamier side where it is the internet and it is anonymous, and whether or not these people choose to identify with our culture. Sometimes they do, like we do. We have our rotters where they're just like, I've people have gotten kicked out of, my brother's gaming group, or, so on. And it just it is what it is, like you put together a gaming group of people that you don't know, along with your friends, or you meet at the local gaming store along with your friends and so on. And, somebody will seem like a nice person until their mouth goes off. And, you're just like, we have no problem being like, um, once you are a part of a group, it is very hard to separate us. We are very, like I said, we have the introverted model of attachment where we have very long lasting friendships. We tend to be very loyal. You can ask that person to help you move a couch. Like it's really there where you go to events together. You do all of that stuff that is not, because we don't have go out for a beer. So, I mean, we do, but like most of us would rather be raiding, than have that. So, there's that element of that it is going to be longer lasting. So you'll see more attempts at rehabilitation than you will at like just out and out getting kicked out. But you can certainly get kicked out for your behavior. We are, we have families, and when we even play something silly like if we have a D&D group or whatever, people consider that silly, but that's something that's taking place in our home. So we do take that under consideration as a culture, and we do attempt to address it on our own time and in our own means and so on. So there is that to consider when you're seeing those reports out there that, there are foul-mouthed people who are just saying absolutely vile things. Well, you know what? That is a first-person shooter game. It is a first-person shooter game where people are pretending that they're mercenaries or, particularly psychotic soldiers. If you've ever played Borderlands, they've got some really squirrely characters in there. Like these are hardcore gamers who are absolutely just foul-mouthing all over the place. And like I said, some of those people are in our culture, some of them are not. They will tend to attract people who are not in the culture, who just like FPSs. Nothing we can do about that. So they're not going to be affected by the fact that that's, kind of like considered not so hot, and that it's going to, like you're not going to get a gamer girl that way and so on. And they'll just go for it. And that's, that's their business. And the number one recommendation that I handed out as far as that one was, you have to, I appreciate that there's a conversation attached to that. You have to take personal ownership for don't kill me. Don't do it. Oh, I just finally got to where I wanted to be. What are the odds that I can beat this guy? Okay. So you have to take personal ownership for where you wind up. If a group is making you uncomfortable, you need to find a group that you are comfortable with. And we very much encourage, as a culture, like I said, long-term relationships, up to and including the ones with where you game together, where you hang out together, where you have meetups, like, 3 p.m. on Thursdays, and it will be every week, and it will supersede, like, unless it's Christmas, you're done, I don't care if Aunt so-and-so is having something. If your gaming group meets at 2 p.m. on Thursdays, very often they will, will skip out on, that for even, whatever it is, Magic the Gathering, for Dungeons and Dragons, for PUBG, for, is that how you pronounce that? PUBG? I never got into them. So they really will go in for that. So that's something to consider, like I think people are frustrated because they see a problem that they don't ever see going away. And there's very definitively a way to deal with that. You can absolutely find a group and meet up with them and, just make a safe place in the same way that, this is going to take a minute, in the same way that you have the whole, I like literally just beat this guy too, which totally sucks. There we go. Now I should save. But you can make that safe place for yourself. So that's also something to consider. It stinks that it's out there. It technically, unless it is a personal threat, I don't think it can be regulated under law because it is covered by freedom of speech. Mouthing off about a female is not technically considered a hate crime. I was shocked to find that out. So, you know, we just kind of rely a lot, and maybe a little bit more than we should, on the larger gaming companies and whatnot to regulate this. And I like to let people know that there is another option out there, and that's what our culture is dependent on, is this other option where you find a gaming group and you stick with them. Stick with people you know. It is like anywhere else, you know, like that is what makes for a safe place. So, we're doing this, huh? Like this is happening. Oh, at least it's just a rat. Oh, and the rat killed me. I'm like jamming here as far as getting killed. So, you know, that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. There's a way to do it, and that way is to form a group. And spend your time with them. Don't hang out with jerks. So, I feel very much that, you know, with the bar scene and so on, like you're going into some dive bars sometimes if you're out there trolling. So, I think it's understandable, but yeah, I'm glad it's being addressed. I am really just like jonesing for this Minotaur. Like this is I forgot how many mini dungeons there were. Like I said, they were you know, went from an RPG to so on and so on, and there were just like so many options. And then when they went for these mini dungeons in open world, it was like a thing. And this is not at all odd for this era where you absolutely tear through getting your butt kicked repeatedly. Like, not even weird. I should have bought more healing potions. I had the money too. Die in a fire! Jerk! So, well, at least this guy's, you know, done for. I can get like a couple hit points back. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, and there are enemies nearby. Well, let's save and see if we can't get through. Sometimes you do that. I remember my dad, he saved over. He was playing Rain in Hell, I think it was. And he saved over the wrong save game. He got out, and it turns out you need like a nuclear bomb or something weird from the bottom that he just didn't know about. And he saves over the wrong save game. Like if I were to resave over Raggle Taggle here, and then all of a sudden I needed something that was back there. Well, he had made it all the way out after quote unquote beating the dungeon, like literally all the way out. So most of the monsters were dead, and I don't remember if there were spawn spots or what the deal was. He had the whole thing mapped and so on. But he was down, he had used up like everything on this run, and it was the end dungeon. So he went and he got, I forget exactly what it was, but he tied it around his head like one of those, like the samurai do. And I don't remember if it was like a belt or what the deal was. So he ties it around his head like a samurai. He's got a nuclear axe or whatever, and he goes back in and he fights his way all the way back down. And it was like 8,000 loads later that he made it. There's nothing for it, you know, like he did not have a save game that was on the other side of this dungeon. He would have to have gone like back. And just so much lost time. And that's how you wind up with all those fun rules like don't walk in front of the TV and whatever that are enforced with a level of adrenaline that if you're not familiar with where they came from is probably confusing. So. And you know, he's a boss, so it's not even like I'll have clues here. I wish they had a little bit more in the way of guidance. My life is very much built on roadmaps. You know, I travel, I'll see theater or whatever, so I'm used to going to places, or I'll catch a show that I'm not familiar with, and I absolutely need to have road signs around me. And it's not that I don't get lost, I do, but hence the road signs, and I'm not seeing it with Methuselah here. Could be in this very dungeon. He could be in a dungeon that I'd passed. And it's funny because this is like kind of prior to the walkthroughs. So like I Googled it at one point and I didn't get, you know, whatever. I didn't get an immediate result, so I kind of abandoned ship on that. I hit you like 15 times. Cut you and do you not bleed. And I couldn't find a quick answer, so that was interesting. Do I want a bow? Like, is this key to my existence? Should I care? Do I care? Nobody knows. This looked so promising. It even looks like a labyrinth. It had like a witchy thing above it and everything. Witchy, not Wiccan. Big difference. It's the way you pronounce it. It's actually different in American English than it is in a lot of languages. The inflection that you put on something will actually tell someone whether it's, I don't want to say a curse word, but like whether it has a negative connotation or not. Connotation is driven almost entirely from inflection rather than sentence structure. Although obviously if it's writing, you know what, I'll just drop to the dead screen there. If it's, in fiction or whatever, there will be a notation, otherwise, but yeah. Very frequently, it's just like, you can say, oh, so-and-so, and you're using a pronoun, and that's how you get connotation. So, big difference the way you pronounce things. Am I backtracking? I feel like this is a dead end. I feel like I would, have some sort of announcement or something. You have entered the Minotaur's lair. Be proud. Methuselah himself waits at the end of this corridor. Save your game. Check your living will. Write a testament. I don't know what will and testament is. Apparently if you have anyone left to tell off, you can file that with a lawyer before you shuffle off to the great beyond. Who knew? But I feel like they'll give me a flag, so I might abandon ship on this dungeon. And I have no idea where I am. Okay, well, I think that's the way out, so we'll just head eastish. Eastish is the direction, right? I went and bought Chinese, and now all I want to do is eat it. I get the pint of lo mein, and it's just a ridiculous amount of food, but it's so, it's got that umami flavor that's missing from most American food. Where it's, oh, a flail, that's an interesting weapon. Am I getting jostled here? You jogging my sword arm, bro? Thankfully, in a weird way, thankfully I'm encumbered because it's not like I can actually loot the dungeon that I'm messing out here. Just whatever. Alright, so we'll go eastish. I just mostly, like I said, I need to explore it in order to make sure that it's clear. So we're certainly doing that. But yeah, so I just, for some reason, I don't know, I feel this is definitely something I've run into in Western New York, and that might be the cold weather, but you definitely want to eat the whole darn thing in one sitting. It's not healthy. Don't do it. I'm not man versus food here. Yep. That is not the left turn at Albuquerque. There it is. Okay. So we'll just head back up to the surface here. I don't like this dungeon. I'm not amused. Da, 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 da. I always feel so accomplished whenever I walk out of one. They do a good job with that. Leap into the water. Swim. Swim as though your life depends on it. I mean, I suppose technically it probably does. So we have a ginormous lake in the middle of nowhere. She said that she marked it on my map. I went back and watched the video because I was having such a hard time with this bloody Minotaur. And she says that she marked it on the map. So I can't figure out how to zoom out though. I assume that there must be a way to do it, or I could just scroll around in circles on it. I mean, you can hypothetically do that. Rather than heading west and winging a prayer in it that you're gonna find a labyrinth. So there's certainly more than enough villages. This is a very settled area for the level of monsters and dungeons it has. It's back in the day, they did not care. They're just drop your wagon here, set up shop. If someone eats you, we'll just send in another peasant and they'll already be good to go. Burned through peasants back in the day, they did. Burned through them. What is this? What are you? Lock has nothing. Can I just bash the door open? Is this going to be a problem for anyone? Oh shoot, it is a problem. Oh my god. Ah, swim away! So they frown on that. Don't do that. It's frowned on. It's not acceptable behavior. And Hammerspell. Hammerfell. Oh, man. I am so bad at this. I went out and I got a lore book, so that I could take notes out of it. I very much want to, as I'm going through especially, I think it's an interesting opportunity to go through the lore and see how it evolved. I think that'll be really cool. Like I said, with the Lizardmen and Argonians and so on, you know, to kind of see like where they started out with this and what direction they went with it. I think that'll tell you a lot about behind the scenes as well as about the history itself. They had mentioned that from game to game, after the second game, it varied a little bit, the lore and the canon and so on. That had changed, and that's not uncommon when something becomes very popular, that authors or creators will find that there's something in there that just does not jive with their concept of how they want a larger reality to be. So for instance, Lizardmen got a hyphen and so on. So, but it's interesting to find that and kind of see where they like had this idea of countries, which seemed to evolve more into the idea of non-humanoid races than it does originally. And like I said, based off the fact that it was originally a party-based RPG, that it was going to be a one-on-one combat, that it just kept going until they got into this whole open world, which was so big. And then they took it to the max in Morrowind and made it so that you could settle down and have a house and so on. And that was just the bee's knees to some people. So... Do you think there's an armory in here? So, there's obviously going to be, that's an inn, that evolution that the peoples of Tamriel were a part of. I'm just booking it west. Like, this is what we're doing. Just rock and roller coasting it. Heading straight through fields, over bales of hay, hopping fences, which apparently you do not hop. Magicking our way through them like a boss. If she gave me 20 days, I feel like this is not necessarily, like I'm not necessarily overshooting this. 20 days is a long time to kill a Minotaur. I don't know what she was expecting out of me. I originally had felt the time crunch. I'm much more relaxed now. Got plenty of time before the celebration. I don't really want to walk all the way back there for 300 gold, though. I mean, you can get a lot more than that looting dungeons. I'm fairly sure that part of Tiber Scepter, whoever it was, is out this ways anyways. So... we'll just keep trekking. You know, those mountains in the distance are not getting closer. Oh, I actually recall when they installed the perspective. They had originally had it where the buildings would appear as they were, just like in everything else. And you'll notice it specifically on the buildings, where, you know, the trees will pop into view or whatever. But they had a block art style, excuse me, a pane art style. By block, I mean square, of course. Not the actual three-dimensional. They have a paint art style that's rotational, and as previously mentioned, that caused all sorts of interesting issues, but it was their GUI and that's what they were using. But they, as it evolved, they came up with this idea that when the buildings came into view, that they would have the first story appear first, and then the second story and the third story, and then if there was a so on, then so on. And my dad showed it to me, you know, and asked me, you know, like, what do you think as far as, like, does that make it feel like there's perspective? I didn't like it, but it was hugely popular, so they kept it. The reason I didn't like it is I felt that it made it more apparent that they were see-through. And that they were using that pane design. The reason that they all liked it was because it was new and it was cutting edge and they were really pushing the envelope and everything like that. And you'll run into that a lot with beta testers where, like, when you're beta testing and it's a group of people who, especially who are checking for bugs, who are programmers, who are like really into that, they will absolutely adore anything that will advance gaming. I don't want to say gaming technology, but the game design in that it pushes the envelope. I, on the other hand, was very very much aware of game design as it stood as an independent product. And that's why I was originally like, if you're going to have a polygonal landscape as it appears, then you probably should not do a tiered approach to a building coming in, because they couldn't make it so that it slanted, or well, they weren't going to. So I had originally told him, no, I think they should ditch it, but they did wind up keeping it. So that was an interesting choice. I don't see that it negatively impacted the game. It was just something that we kicked back and forth. So I was walking through a town the last time through, and I remembered that, and I hadn't brought it up, and so I thought I'd just chuck it out there. That is something that, you know, like when you're, for instance, making a graphic user interface from the ground up, when you're not using Unity, when you're not using Unreal Engine. That's the sort of thing that they will ask you in-house generally now. They do most of the alpha and beta testing, but if you do pick up a beta off of the internet or whatever because you think it's cool and it's something you want to do, then you can absolutely, you know, like that's something they're going to be interested in, is like, oh, hey, this new feature that we just added where, you know, we get first, second, third floor, how does that affect things? You know, they're going to want to know the answer to that. So it was definitely something that came up. How much is it going to cost to heal me, bro? Bro? Oh my god, it's abandoned. Whatever will we do? They were big into Ankhs. That was a very common, very popular symbol back then. There was the whole thing with the pyramids and hieroglyphics and stuff like that. So the Ankh was a big deal. It was in Ultima as well. So I think it was interesting. I cannot save in a tavern, store, temple. Huh. How about that? It was interesting because I think they were trying to avoid mainstream religion and kind of give people a safe place where, like, you would have a neutral ground. So, okay, well, I just jammed up. So, hopefully that did save. I am Anjindra. I will, I keep saying I'll do more exploring, and then I phone it in. I am working full time to get a little bit more ad revenue to kind of promote this and get people more involved. So hopefully you will keep seeing stuff like getting me going and getting a lore book and being able to answer a couple questions or come up with some new stuff for you. So I am investing time and money in this. And as a result, I'm working again. So drop me a like and subscribe. I will take a look and see if I can just find out where this Minotaur is independently so I can just go kill it. I have no problem with walkthroughs. Obviously, I played this game 25 years ago before it was even released, so I don't particularly consider that cheating, and it's not meant to be a walkthrough. But if I head straight for him next time, you'll know that I had the presence of mind to actually, like, seriously hawk that down, because apparently this is a well-guarded secret. So drop me a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride. I really hope you enjoyed yourself. And as always, much love.